Hey there, thanks for joining us. I'm here with guitar monk Mathew Dixon, the mystical music man and co-creator of the Ho'oponopono certification courses with Dr. Joe Vitale. I'm Caroline Harper, and we're on with Harry B Happy Bartholomew, who's a former monk, sound healer, and meditation leader who you may recognize from the Advanced Ho'oponopono certification course, in which he shared the gong meditation. Hi, Harry. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been looking forward to this ever since we talked about it.
Me too.
All right. And yeah, I want to thank you also. It's always great talking to you. And, meeting you back in 2017 was incredible. And then the gong wash, I mean, you can't describe it until you're there. It's just waves of energy hitting you. It's beautiful. Loved it very much. So could you explain when you first learned about Ho'oponopono?
Oh, man. So back in the early 2000s, I read a book called The Attractor Factor, and which led me to Austin back in 2006, where I was going to one of the healing fairs at the convention center in Austin. And I looked up and saw that Dr. Joe was giving the keynote speech that day. So I said, okay, well, let me go. And then his table was there. And there was this brand new book that I hadn't seen yet called Zero Limits. And that's what he was there talking about that day. And so I said, okay, well, I bought 2 copies, one for myself and one for my buddy Chuck. And I started reading it. And the crazy things that were happening was, first, it was in perfect alignment with everything I had been studying, because I had just left the monastery. I was still in robes, but I had just left the monastery in Thailand. And so it was fun, when I connected with Joe that day, because here I was still in my Buddhist robes. And he kind of looked, he's like, okay. For 1 second, he didn't have anything to say. He didn't know what to say. But I started reading the book, and here it was in absolute alignment with everything that I was learning and teaching in the monasteries. When we say the 4 phrases, they are perfect. Everybody's got different ways of using it in different parts of the world. But when you start paying attention, it really does exist in some form or fashion everywhere around the globe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you also how it resonated with you, but I think you just answered my question for me right there. That's great. And so how did you start out using it then at that point? Like, what was your initial way of using it?
Well, I tried not to overthink it. And I think that was the big part. And when I was taught to do mantras by my original teacher, he used to say, my very first mantra that he ever taught me was, let go, because he was teaching these mantras in other languages, and he wanted to give me something that I could conceptually understand. So he said, don't hold on to anything. Whatever happens, never hold on to anything. If it's good, bad, indifferent, just don't hold on to it. Just let it flow. It starts here, it comes here, and it leaves. So I just, okay, well, I'm going to start it the same way I've started all these other ones. And I just sat there going, okay, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And then there's this point, and this is what I try to explain to people even when I teach. There's this point where your heart starts going like this. It just starts opening up, and these 4 phrases start to make sense. Because it's programming. Every time you say it, you're just awakening this program that's deep inside of you. And you start realizing you don't have to hold on to this stuff.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's kind of what everybody experiences, and it's why everybody goes back to it, even if they step away for a while, because they remember how good that was, how good it felt, and the results, so.
Absolutely. I know it worked that way for me. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Harry, is because at an event about 5 or 6 years ago, you and I had a sidebar conversation about Ho'oponopono. And I remember I said something at the time along the lines of, that I mainly used it when I was having some kind of emotional crisis. And you shared with me about how you use it to clean for strangers on public transit, which was really inspiring to me to think about what that means in terms of, how much you're using it, how much you're cleaning. Can you share about that with us?
Oh, absolutely. So first I want to get to the meat of something, and I know Matt's probably going to jump back in here on this one, which is when we clean, we're only ever cleaning on ourselves. And so when I go and I do this, I'm never cleaning on the people themselves. And this is something because I see the questions that come across the page, the Facebook page. And even though I don't answer much, I read that page every day and I clean with people every day on that page. I just don't talk about it, because the misconception is, oh, would you clean on me, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, I won't. But because I've now become part of it, because my perception is now there, I will clean with you.
Yeah, the beauty of that. Yeah, the beauty of that page too is things are coming to you that you don't even know are within you. So therefore, it gives you the opportunity to clean. And sometimes that's my answer to people. Like if they say something directly to me, an email or something, I'll say, well, you've given me something wonderful to clean on, And it might be them saying something really nasty to me, but I realize it's not them. They are perfect. This is within myself that I have to deal with. And that's what I need to clean.
But so when I go onto a bus, when I go into a public space, I observe people. That's my teacher nicknamed me the observer, because I very rarely talked. When I was in Thailand and India, I very rarely talked. I just observed. And people would see me doing things like this. I would just sit there and my hand would go up and I'd just start sending energy to different places, or my hand would go out since I can't keep it lower, but I would just be sitting and my hand would just drop down over my knee with my palm out. And I would start sending. Now, this is, of course, before I was doing any Ho'oponopono at all, but I could see people's emotions. And so I would just start chanting internally a handful of different mantras, and I would just radiate that energy out. And my teacher also made me sit at the monastery every day for a few hours, and people would come for healings because everybody knew that I was a healer. So I would spend 30 seconds with each person. I would literally place my hand on their crown, 30 seconds, and then let them go. And that was because they were people that lived in the village and they supported us. They made sure that we were fed every day. And it was something that we could do in return, whether they saw it as a healing or as a blessing. What's the difference? And so if I go someplace, I would just sit and observe people and chant, here, and just chant the 4 phrases. Go, oh, this person's tired. This person's in pain. I can watch their foot. Well, I can definitely understand that. I can understand body pain. And so I just start cleaning that body pain inside myself, but while focusing on them, loosely focusing on them. And what I would see, especially in buses, I would start cleaning inside of a bus and people would get on just like, and they would get out smiling, and they would they would leave the bus with a lighter step. And so then I would take another bus and I would sit there and I would do nothing, no cleaning, just observation. And they would get on sluggish and they would leave sluggish. And so there's knowledge, and then there's wisdom. And the wisdom is that every time I sat and cleaned, people would leave the environment in a better place than when they walked into it. And that's when I knew how powerful the process was. It doesn't mean that we don't stir the crap up, but the crap gets out faster.
Right.
Sometimes we see some truths that we don't want to see, but once we see them, we can start to fix them. So that's.
If you had one situation, one miracle per se, that you think was like the one that you go, but that, because there's so many, especially after practicing for so many years, but is there one that just kind of stands out that is maybe, and it doesn't even have to be that incredible, but it's the thing that you go back to?
I'm about to. Okay, first let me get a hold of my emotions, because
Sure.
this one's huge. For me personally, this one is. It's hard for me to talk about it without bursting into tears, but I'm going to do it because it has to do with somebody that we've all met. So at the Advanced Ho'oponopono seminar, there was a woman named Cammie Bell, or Beal, actually. And she's from up in Green Bay area. Her son, she gets in touch with me a couple of years ago, and her son was in the hospital. His heart failed on him. His heart was growing, was getting too big. And so she just said, hey, would you do some work on him? Would you pray for him? Would you do some Ho'oponopono with him? And we became really close friends now over these couple of years. And so I started working, and I just started cleaning every day. And they got him, to make a very long story a little bit shorter, they got him a heart pump, an LVAD unit, left ventricular assisted device. And so he was doing better. And then now a year later, he ended up with a fungal infection up through the driveline. And the Children's Hospital in Wisconsin sent him home to die. They said, hospice, we can't do anything. It's a fungal infection. And I started cleaning on that, because it's like, okay, this isn't right. I connected with my guides, with divine, however we want to explain it. And I said, what's going on? I said, is this his time? And I have to ask those questions as a healer of now 25 years. I had to ask that question and see what answer came back. And they said, no. He's not supposed to be there. This is a mistake. This was a human mistake. He'll be okay. But we have to put a bunch of things into the loop. Well, what ended up happening with that was they ended up meeting a doctor here in Houston by the name of Dr. Adachi. And over again, this man has saved his life more than once. And it was almost as if up in the hospitals up north, they were trying to sabotage. They did not want him to come to Houston. And I'm saying this in the open, and I probably shouldn't. But, and I don't know that that's actually the case, but that's the illusion. That's the illusion that was being given, was that that it wasn't happening. So I just started cleaning on it. I knew that I was not the person to fix him. And this is the powerful part of this story, and I'm keeping it really short. They're great friends. When they brought him here, Dr. Adachi sent the hopper jet, the Texas Children's hopper jet, to Wisconsin, picked him up, brought him here, tested him. Of course, they had to pull the LVAD unit out of his body and put these giant pumps in, and it was so much to see. And it's like, just don't stop cleaning. All of us, don't stop cleaning. Don't stop cleaning. They have a prayer page, but with us, don't stop cleaning. All the right people started falling into place. And right now, if I showed you a picture of him, he is just this vibrant, highly energetic kid who loves life, loves to tell jokes, but would not tell a joke at the expense of somebody else.
Hmm.
He never wants anybody else to be harmed. It is so unbelievably beautiful. I could do a full hour-long conversation just on this story, but it showed me one thing. It also reaffirmed to me that it's not about us, but about everything that gets put into motion. When we do the 4 phrases, it's about the energies we put into motion. We clear all this stuff out of us. We clear with it, and it makes room for all of the correct things to flow into place. It's not that I put my hands on somebody and go, "You're healed."
Right.
I leave that for the other guys out there. It's this past week, a very good friend of mine lost a job. 3 kids, and she and her husband lost their jobs all within a 3-day period. And I'm like, "You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine." And she calls me a couple of days later. I started cleaning on that because she asked for it. A couple of days later, she gets a call, and another very large company with a huge step up said, "Okay, we want to put you through the interview process," which as of today was looking very good. She sent me a message and said, "Looks like everything's going to happen." And that's that point. That's that aspect of this work. I didn't know where this was going to come from. I didn't know what kind of job she was going to get or what kind of anything she was going to do. It was just about supporting the energy, going, "Okay, well, I've been in that place, so let me clean on that. Let me work on that." And because she's on my altar, she gets included in that. So I wasn't even doing it specifically for her. I was doing it for me and for all the people around me.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those stories. I did want you to talk about Cammie, because that is such a profound story, such an inspiring story. And, I've been following them too, and your friendship. And yeah, it's just beautiful. The power of Ho'oponopono and community, praying in community,
And if you end up wanting to talk with her, I'd be happy if you're not directly connected to make that connection, because her story with all of this is quite unbelievable. I've actually heard her tell her side of the story, and as it's still going on, but it's quite amazing as well.
Yeah, we talked to her last week, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do another show where we have both of you on at the same time.
Part 2.
Yeah.
More in depth. Yeah. So in 2017, at the Advanced Ho'oponopono event, you did what I would call an elaborate, to me, it was very, I'd never seen anything like it before, elaborate display of crystals. In fact, Caroline, do we have a picture of it?
Let me just,
so people know what I'm talking about? And it was there the whole entire time through the event, cleaning on the room the whole entire time. In fact, everybody went home with a crystal. Yes, there. And I was wondering, maybe you could explain a little bit about how you've connected crystals with Ho'oponopono, and what this was all about, why you chose to do this, and why it sat out the whole time and what it did.
The inspiration for this, when I was first asked to do the seminar, Joe just said, "Hey, do you think it would be possible to get some small crystals that people could take home with them?" And this was, it's supposed to be something really small, just something very easy. But nothing's ever small and easy when I get involved with it. I got a phone call from some friends of mine who said, "Hey, Harry, we're in Arizona at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, and we just wanted to say hello." And I said, "Huh, okay." I said, "Well, while you're there, if you happen to run into to something, let me know. Give me a call. Shoot me some pictures. And they were with this Brazilian family that has this beautiful mine in Brazil, and had trays of these beautiful crystals. So I said, that's what I want. And so they were able to secure me a flat of these beautiful crystals. And so I said, okay, well, we'll do a grid. We'll build a grid now. So this whole thing changed from just having some crystals to building a grid. And there are 4 different gates. One of them, you see there's a jade skull at one of the gates. There's a big crystal at one of the other ones. And there are 2 quartz Buddhas that are in the other corners. And then I had Buddha relics in the very center, and then using a thing called a heaven and earth dorje, which is a sacred geometry dorje, sending energy straight down. So it was that dorje, it's that gold piece that's in the very center up high. That's actually what's taking all of the energy of the room, bringing it into the crystals and programming it into the crystals. So we're using, the crystals are in a mandala. And so the mandala is accumulating energy. So I had it set up so that all of the energy was going into the mandala and absorbing the energy of the crystals, or absorbing the energy of the room into the crystals. And we did that for the entire weekend. And then at the end of it, I disassembled and as we disassembled, I blew the 4 phrases into each crystal, and then I would hand them out. At the very end, we handed it to each person, and I actually blew the energy of the 4 phrases into their hands and transferred and attuned each crystal to that specific person. And that was the very ending of it, was each person got a crystal that was attuned specifically for them.
I still have mine. And you gave me a second crystal. Specifically, I believe you called it a tuned crystal. But there was something different about it.
Yeah, so the one that I gave you, the second one that I gave you, was a singing crystal, which means it has a different tone to it. If you tap both of them, or tap both of them gently on a table, one of them will have just a normal crystal tone. The other one will actually go ding. It actually has a much higher pitch to it.
Yep, I still have both. And then one of the things that Joe and I wanted when we put on the event was we wanted people to have things to take home. We'd given out other things, like we had blue solar cups and mugs that went with them.
Exactly.
Every one of our CDs, handed those out. I like to say that Joe and I put on the event, but the truth is Caroline really put on the event. We just we did the fun part and went, we want a beautiful place, go find a beautiful place. Remember all the
and it was.
Yeah.
And it was. That place was amazing.
And we need it catered. So she did all the hard work. So it was pulling in the energy of the room. Yeah.
And I still, every once in a while, you'll see on my Facebook page, I'll build a grid every once in a while. And
I wanted to ask one more thing, kind of a little plug, because if anybody's in Houston, but you do quite a few live events, right? Like, didn't you just do one on was it the 6th?
Saturday.
Yeah. And do you have the opportunity when you do those events to do any? Do you bring crystals to the events on top of your elaborate gong display? And I know people probably hear gong and they think, oh, all right, like the Gong Show, but whoa, no, it's
actually, people, when they hear that I'm doing a gong event, they think of kind of like what Mehtab does in Austin as Kundalini yoga, Kundalini gongs. And I do something completely different, because that's just, the way I work with gongs. I think we're all chanting into the gongs, but the rhythms that I use are very different than the rhythms that they use. And what I'm reading the room. There's a really interesting thing that happens when I start healing in those rooms with the gongs. I get synesthesia, and so I can actually see colors coming off of people.
Oh,
And so I'm working on the room until I find that point where everybody's kind of resonating to a beautiful color. It's not, I don't want them all to be the same color. I just want pure colors to come through instead of like the dark grays and blacks and things like that. You want there to be a nice, beautiful color. So my events like that are never the same twice. So yeah, the first Saturday of every month, typically the first Saturday. I think the only difference is going to be June, because I actually have a big recording session for some people. That'll be the 10th, but typically it's the first Saturday of every month at the Path of Tea in Houston, a beautiful little organic tea shop. So for those who do like to clean, for those who are interested in cleaning, 5 nights a week on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is just at Harry B Happy. I do 9 p.m. Central Time, half hour to 40-minute long meditation. We do some Ho'oponopono, we do some other chanting, and then we'll do a 15-minute sitting meditation. Most of the time I'll put people into a mudra and give them something to focus on, and we just continue the cleaning.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just beautiful, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to y'all. I mean, this whole group of people have brought so much to each other and to everyone in the world. We expand a technique that might not have ever made it to us had it not been for a few very integral people. It's Dr. Hulin, and his graciousness to share the information so freely, and then to laugh and go, okay, it's your responsibility now, bye. As because he understood just what we stir up when we do it. Yeah. But he also understood what we heal when we do it. And watching some of the comments on the page every day, guys, just take the time, do the practice, observe the practice. So many people do it, but they don't observe what's happening. And so all they see is that there's still negative things going on, but they're not watching all the positive things that are going on around them. And that's with any of these practices. We have to observe. It's not always what you're trying to fix that gets fixed first. Everything starts arranging itself in the order in which it needs to happen for it to hold, for it to really heal. And trust the process, be a part of the process. Don't try to fix anyone but yourself. Man, there's our one piece of advice. You don't have to try to fix anyone but yourself, because everything that you see out in the world is all inside of you. If you can see it, you can clean on it.
I would say too that when you get specific about what you want, like having an intention, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But don't get discouraged when that intention doesn't just manifest right away, because you don't realize that the cleaning and what you're doing is part of creating that intention. Just because it doesn't pop right up for you, you're doing something else, or you're doing it for somebody else.
Exactly. And be willing to have something better than what you're asking for.
And more. Yeah, I forgot to say that part. That's right. It's beyond what you really want. You can't even imagine what the possibility is. That's not our job.
No, it's not.
Work. It's not even work. Just do the practice, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your wisdom and your generosity and your inspiration and your love. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for including me. Thank you so much for including me. This is so much fun.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us and all of your wisdom and information. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Be well, be happy, stay happy, be blessed.
Thanks, Harry. And thanks everyone for being with us.
Thank you all. Peace, love, and music.